Okay, today my name is Gerker van Veen. I'm working for a company T for Change. Today I'm trying to talk about REST2 Workspace Manager. I think it's a hot item the last last year, I think. So we're going to talk about a little bit about what we have built for it. What are my options? What are my way to go? What are we going to do about it? What is the future of Workspace Manager? And I will be starting with a little bit of history of what happened last year. A lot of things happened, and well, there's a lot of confusion going around and in marketing at IVANTI, and the world is not getting a really clear picture of what's going on in the IVANTI space. Oh, you're clicking. Okay. So what happened again? Well, I drew a little picture there. You're going too fast. Let me do it.
Yeah, sure.
So you press the button and then you release it.
Yeah.
Come on, Jeroen. Come on. So I used to work for Repsens. In 2016, I quit my job, and it was just now required by Lendesk. So then the party begins with AdSense. After that, they decided, well, we need a new name. Heat software was attached to it, was also required, and they needed a new name, a new brand. So they went on with the flag of IVANTI. Lot more shit they came across. They bought it and they they shoved it all under the same name, IVANTI. And then the most interesting thing happened. I heard it on an event. I talked to some guys, and there was some rumors about that REST was being acquired by IVANTI. Well, I didn't see the picture completely in front of me. How is that working? But yeah, after a few months later, we saw this one. IVANTI requires REST. And you probably know AdSense and REST were the biggest competitors in this kind of workspace. We didn't really like each other, to be honest. But it was a good space. But yeah, what's next? So, what is IVANTI going to do with the Workspace Manager control? What is it saying? So in 2017, they acquired REST. It was put together, and then they needed a plan to come together to see what they were going to do with the two solutions. So, what I said in the first meeting in 2017, keep calm, do nothing, really. And that was the broad message. It was in October 2017, 1 year ago exactly now. So everybody just stay where you are. Well, I can imagine that. It was literally sit back and relax. Nothing happens. Nothing's going on. Come on, come on. But yeah, after a while, a lot of confusion was going on, because after that they decided to cut one of the projects. And why is that? Well, there are some facts you have to know about software companies. If a company has two products with the same functionality, they're not going to maintain it. They will not going to maintain it. It's really expensive to make two products with the same functionality. And then if you want something you don't want in your organization is a competition within your own organization. That's what exactly is happening now at IVANTI. So what they decide, we cut one of you out. I don't know on basis on what they decided to cut out workspace control. But the only thing I know is that UWM is the one that is continued. So everything is going on. If you look at the roadmap, it's a full featured roadmap, cloud options, autopilot, etc. will be in it. It's not going to build in workspace control, it's built in workspace management. Another fact is there is a conversions queue available to go from control to manager, and not the other way around. So that was the second hint we had when we were in October 2017. Oh, what's going on? And then this was announced. I believe it was E3 Amsterdam. Rob Arch was saying, was mentioning this one. And I believe the 1st of August is the first month and go on. Probably Dennis, you know it better than me. And it will be maintained for another 3 years. But what does maintaining means? And what you see is we spoke a lot to the account manager of IVANTI. Well, what does maintain means? It just means sit back and relax. We do nothing really. Just go on, continue your business, do nothing. But really, I wasn't really convinced it was just sit back and relax. So I spoke to some guys in the UK and they said, well, what do you mean by sit back and relax? It's not sit back and relax time. It's the 3 years they give to the customers to decide what you are going to do with Workspace Control. Do you want to continue the product? Do you want to switch over to another product, or do you want to switch over to use a Workspace Manager? And as an IVANTI, of course they want to switch to Workspace Manager. So this is the time the customers need for the conversion. So you have 3 years really, well, it's now 2.5 years I think, you have to do something about your workspace estate. If you do nothing in 3 years, it might be continued for another year. If you do nothing in 3 years and they cut it out, you might have a problem. It's out of support. Another fact is that IVANTI is not investing in the transition tool, because the problem is only very regional. The problem is only in the Benelux really and the Nordics, and the other parts of IVANTI don't have this problem. Why should they invest in the transition tool? This is what I know now. I don't know what it happens in 1 year. This is what I know now. Really. There's no new features in Workspace Control. Beware of that. If you are working with Workspace Control and you are currently working on a Windows 10 environment, and you want to use Workspace Control, that's fine. It's fully supported, it's fully maintained, but there will be no features attached to it. If you look at things at Autopilot, you take a risk because it's not going to be in Workspace Control. That's something you have to think about. So yeah, will Windows 10 support for future iteration till 2021? If I calculated it correctly then, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what does it mean? This is something I had a discussion already with some of the guys. What do you mean by supporting Windows 10? If you have Windows 10 is it's the operating system, and that stays the same. So they say, well, we will support the operating system, but what about features? What about application with this, which will be added to Windows 10? Maybe customers want to decide to go to Edge. Well, it's not really a Windows 10 operating system thing. It's an application on top of the operating system. You get discussions around that with product management. So you need to know what are my options for this one. Well, most of the question I get is, do I still need a workspace management control? If you look at the current state of Workspace Manager or Workspace Control, yeah, and you look 5 years ahead of us, in the current state, no. We might not need it in 5 years anymore. But if you look at what they are bringing in and what kind of features they're bringing in, it might be an interesting product for new and future Windows 10 estates, in those estates. And we still have to deal with virtual environments. It's not gone in 2 or 3 years. We still have heavily invested in VDI environments. It's still very mainstream, and the vision of Microsoft is still mobile and cloud first. So it's not working really hard on the VDI bits to get it working correctly on the Windows 10 environment. Another thing is enterprise environments have complex constructions. You might can say, oh, you have preferences and GPO over it. And you can convert it all to a GPO. That's correct. But it's slow. It's not working as you want to. This kind of tooling makes it a lot faster to work for. And the user friendly, it's more, the user experience is much better on workspace management. Another thing is, I came across the last few years, is regulations. More and more regulations around. I see device trust here. They know about this one as well. And regulations dictate that we need to be more aware of in what kind of context we need to run our applications or our things. So it's very important that you know in what context you can run and what you can't run in certain contexts. And license agreements is also a very strong one. A lot of auditing. I don't know how it is in other countries, but we see a lot of auditing in the Netherlands. A lot of auditing is going on. Licenses are read. How many licenses do we have? We want to do an audit. And you need to be sure and you need to prove that the license agreement is met in your contract. So my own believing, and it's my personal opinion, in the current state you still need some kind of product for this one. So what do we have? So why did we build a tool in? We don't like really to be vendor locked. So why we build a tool is the reason we want to be flexible. We don't want to be attached to a certain application or to a certain vendor. Years for years I worked for AppSense and they had the APIs and we could import and export the things. So we could convert to certain things. One of the key notes of the key features of AppSense was also we don't do any vendor locking. So there is a possibility to export or import things. Well, the rest is a little bit different. It's all XML, it's inside a configuration, so it's very hard to get the information out of it and to turn it over to DBO, to a WAM, or to whatever you want to line. So that's why we started to build our own conversion tool, because we think this is the one we need to attack first, because this is what's going on. So why did we do it? Flexibility, I talked about it. There's a lot of development going on. If we look at the REST configuration, it really amazes me how much effort and how much time is spent on these kind of things. I got configuration files for 200 MB, just purely XML. It's not entirely fair because there are also icons in it. I know that, but yeah, 200 MB of XML files. It's amazing how much information there is in. It's very valuable information. Application-specific information. What we see is a lot of customers are transforming from Windows 7 to Windows 10. The application specifics are not changing from Windows 7 to Windows 10. It's the same registry, it's the same file, it's the same profile location on which it is. So we can use that, we can reuse it. Not all the things we can use from Windows 7. If you look at the desktop background of the whole desktop, you cannot use it, but if you look at the application, most of the things you can completely reuse. Another thing, and that's the hardest, I think, in the discussion we have with customers, we have no budget to migrate to UWM. For example, if IVANTI really wants that the customers of REF is just moving towards UWM, to full-featured routing, that's really a wish. But what are my drivers for that? I'm going from one product, full-featured, to another product, full-featured, and I don't get anything benefits out of it, except that I have a roadmap for the next coming years. And that's the only benefit I get from it. So we need to invest in time. We need to invest in training for these guys, just to go from REST to a UWM. And that's really the hardest pain I get as feedback for these customers. So what we can do is, that's also one of the reasons we build a tool, so we can convert all the information and then go on and do the other things as low as possible to lower the cost for the conversion. POC comparisons, I see less and less, because yeah, there is not really a comparison needed anymore, because it's now clear with Workspace controllers it's not going to be maintained for a reason. So how does it work? I brought Jeroen with me. He's really the guy who developed the tool. I just explain a little example on how we do. There are fundamental differences between REST and a Workspace Manager. And the biggest difference is that everything in REST is around a certain application. So you have an application and you put it in a start menu. You place a whitelisting. You say if it's allowed to start. There is an application entitlement on it. You set your registry settings, your things around the application, and it's completely different on how we do it in Workspace Manager. And in Workspace Manager we have more a trigger-based solution where we have the triggers to put it in. When do you want to launch a certain item? When do you want to configure certain items? Does it need to be at the logon or just at the store? So we needed to be smart when we did the conversion. And here this is a very simple example. If you look at this is Word, and around Word it's in its place in the start menu of REST. And when we convert it, the process actions are going into the process start trigger, and all the things for the start menu are going in the pre-logon or the logon trigger. So we can build it up in front of the user. And that's his screen. Jeroen is going to give a demo.
Yeah.
And he will explain a little bit more about the things. Yeah.
I will remain seated during the demonstrations, so it's just easier for me to walk through it. I'll be showing 3 different videos, and it's based on the UWM structure. I'll be using AppSense instead of UWM because it's easier for me to translate. So using the old terms, it's REST and AppSense.
Can everybody hear me quite well?
Yeah, are there any problems?
Otherwise I will...
Okay, so...
I put the bitterball in his mouth.
Yeah.
Finally you're making yourself useful.
Yeah. Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome.
Let me see if I can get this one to run and to pause. Yeah. Okay, as you can see, Gerk already explained a large part of it, but a lot of configuring goes into the applications. So for me, the challenge was to put the stuff configured in the applications in a logical place in AppSense. And yeah, just to give a small. Let's go. Yeah. So I'll be running through the different stuff that's configured here. Yeah, so the file type associations, the access lists, and it's not just the identity but also the workspace containers, and you can configure power zones. Also, I'm walking through several things configured in the different nodes. So it's just some example settings. It's easy to. Can I pause for a second? So now I'm switching towards AppSense, and you can see the style that I used. So as you can see, there are workspaces and there are power zones. I'm not sure. Does everyone know AppSense a little bit, or? I'll be starting out. Yeah.
Yes.
I'll be starting out in the logon part. So the logon part, the creation of the shortcuts is being put because it's being done as a shortcut creation, but the policies defined underneath the application I will be putting underneath the process start part. And the reusable conditions, those are the power zones and the workspaces. Right now I'm using a default conversion method. It means that I just integrate the workspaces as another condition. There are different ways to handle this because companies use, in the examples I got, the companies use workspaces as different kind of they have different uses for workspace. I'm sorry. So I've been running through logon a bit, and you see that the shortcuts are created. Underneath the Internet Explorer, the actions are partly placed. And I pause a little bit too fast. So here I have a new registry key being generated. Well, same goes for Word. And here, so you can see I added the different groups that are in the access control list. If I defined a workspace or something else, that would also be added here. The filters could be placed on different levels because sometimes it's more logical to have everything under one filter and more recognizable. Because REST's strong point is, the application is very recognizable, and if you want to change something in the application, then you just navigate to the application. And well, here I'm running through all the logon stuff and printer mappings, and so all those things, they have come over from one place to the other. Now I just run through the policies.
Sorry.
Now I've just run through the policies. So right now the access of the security part isn't being handled yet, and personalization is being handled yet. So therefore I have a different video. Should be this one. Yeah. Oh, it's the same one. Okay. So first the personalization, and what you're seeing here is I'm running through applications I've configured, some demonstration applications, and they have their settings configured at the application level, and several settings I've configured under user settings. So here are several different applications. Also, user settings will be displayed at some point. So AppSense actually is pretty similar to REST in this regard. So AppSense also knows application settings and specific global settings that you put right into the registry. So for me, the location on where it has to land in AppSense is pretty straightforward. It's just you cannot do this stuff one-to-one because, for example, if there's a user setting configured for Internet Explorer in REST, that's something that works for REST. And Internet Explorer has also been analyzed by for AppSense, and there is already a best practice for it, so you might not want to use it. But for some applications that require their settings to be dropped during the logon, it's logical to add it into AppSense as well. So here I've pretty quickly gone through all the applications and the settings that are attached to it, and also now what I've let me see if I can navigate through it. The applications don't actually have filters attached to it, so if you start a specific application, then it will be personalized in AppSense, whereas for REST you have to be the groups are also applied for the personalization part, or I'm not sure what the specific naming convention is for the REST side, but for AppSense it's just like you configure the settings. So there's a lot of specifics to it, a lot of ifs and thens and stuff, and I'll be happy to explain on all the on a more personal level, but I cannot go into every little detail right now because of the time. Alright, so the next demonstration is let me see. Oh, this is also this one. Our next demonstration is the whitelisting. So REST has a whitelisting as well as AppSense has a whitelisting. And well, there we go. So what I'll be showing is the whitelistings that I've added to REST, and several items they are added globally, so in the authorized files node, and several items are added through the application part. So with REST you have a similar functionality as to allowing sub-process by a parent process. So absence knows the same. So now I'll be navigating to the application, showing that there's an access control list. I'll also be converting the access control list for the whitelisting. And absence has a completely different console for the whitelisting, with different kind of functionality, and because it's being brought out as a separate product. So if you look here at absence side, you see that the different kind of applications are added to the library, and I added it to several group rules where you allow specific processes. So I also have process rules on what I just talked about is parent process are allowed to see the executables for allowed to start the executables as a child process, but the user themselves is not allowed to do it straight away. And so this one got off pretty fast.
Oh, you're talking too slow.
Yeah. So what I was demonstrating is that you can have multiple child process added to a parent process. If it's configured in REST, it's being brought over to absence. And some stuff is also with a side note where we have to add value as a consultant, because some things is just not logical to put one-to-one from REST to absence. So absence has a different way of working.
You have a quick question. So how many you're going to get no data loss that you may want to optimize?
I'm sorry?
You'll get no data loss but you'll need to optimize to get less.
Yeah, there are several things. Yeah,
That's a good question, Simon.
Those work for absence.
You want to have one of those bottles, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, is it that for you?
So
you need one?
No, thank you.
Yeah, I will be analyzing in my script. I will be analyzing every setting that is configured in REST, and if there's something strange to it, or if I'm not able to parse it, then I will be generating an alert or generating something to make the consultant look at the thing that's gone wrong. Because at some point, there's just so much stuff you can do with REST that with every eventuality, it's pretty hard to anticipate on everything. So whenever something is not working, then I try to make sure that the one that's analyzing the absence config is being alerted to exactly what is happening there. What you just saw was just a basic conversion, because it's easier to explain than converting or showing a config with like 2,000 applications. And I've been testing it against those configs, and every time I have to add a different logic to it. So that's pretty much it. If you want more information, I'll be happy to explain it.
So
I have a question regarding the user settings.
Yeah.
So, REST, the actual user data is stored on the file share. And
Yes.
I believe in absence it's stored in the database.
Yeah.
So how are you going to manage that? Because you need to move that to the database.
Yeah.
The migration part, you mean?
Yeah,
Like
so
going
it's
from one place to another?
It's one thing to migrate the settings, but you also need to migrate the data then.
If you
Yeah.
want to,
That's the migration phase. It's there are different ways on doing that. You can make absence active during. There are several ways of doing it. You can, for example, you can make absence active during a session, and you can vacuum user settings into the database. So the user settings that are personalized in REST, that they are added to the database. So it's it would be starting the application and checking which kind of settings. In the background, it would be starting the application and we're checking which kind of settings are configured on the places that we have told AppSense to personalize.
Yeah, but I think if I understand you correctly, Rob, is we have several options to do that in that way, because it's really just on a location, on a file share, REST location, and we have several options. For example, you can use the import function, but we also use, I believe, we have also some scripts running during logon. And we convert it right away the first time the user is using the application. Convert the information from the location and just import it before the application starts and jump into the database.
The biggest use case we see is also Windows 7 from Windows 7 to a Windows 10 migration. So therefore application settings would be very relevant.
They're in the profile when the user log on, and then when logging off you put them to...
Well, that's one way to go.
Yeah,
so that's also but you can also... Well, we didn't look at it because we don't get a lot of questions around it.
You can't read the actual... Well, you can read the registry files, but the UPFs, they're
No,
scrambled.
That's a document, yeah.
Yeah, so because I did think about it, but I haven't because we haven't put this tooling into a production environment as of yet. When an application starts, it has to have means in order to reach the specific data, and the REST either uses a filter drive or a redirection, a redirection trick or something to give it a name. And AppSense will also be redirected in order to vacuum these settings. And you can also do things offline, like using scripts.
It's a very interesting question, but I didn't. The customers I spoke, they didn't care really about the information, the profile information going from one to another. That's why we have the main focus is now on converting the complete configuration of REST Workspace Control to Workspace IVANTI. We did think about certain ways of how we convert the user settings, but still, if I'm talking about the configuration, we're going from Windows 7 to Windows 10. It's not really needed, or we have some other specifics. But yeah, we can have a look at it. I believe there is some way, but I think we need to try and run the 2 agents on both machines to see if we can convert it somehow, or we need to see if there is any logic in the specific files, the UPF, what's it called? UWP files? UWP files?
UPF.
Yeah,
UPR.
Yeah. Oh yeah, UPR.
Yeah, if there's some way we can add to it, or we can...
But at this point, we didn't look at it.
Yeah, but I guess if you've done a conversion like that, and at the end all users have to reset all their settings of all their applications, I'm going to think the customer will say conversion failed.
Well, again, my customers didn't really require that, but we can look at it.
Well, I see Rob's point, but it goes both ways. So if the investment that the company is doing is because they're moving to the platform, they might not migrate settings. Because if it's from Windows 7 to Windows 10, you're going to reinstall the machine. I agree with you that saying you can keep all your data, that's a good sell. There's also other things like run once keys and stuff like that. How do you know that this profile is, you can do stuff like, there's a lot of run once keys that are not only machine specific, but user specific, what happened to the profile.
I think
so you convert it to an AppSense, do you run that?
Yeah, but you have that option. Also when importing building blocks, you can say, well, clear all run once keys and do it again.
No, what I'm saying is you can migrate a profile. If you take all the user settings, you can give, let's say we figure out a way to do the ER files and get files. There's also all the run once keys that ran on your profile. So now you have a profile where all the custom shit is run. It could be execute command, it could just be regular run once keys for registries, but it could be a lot of things that affect your user profile. You move that to AppSense and you move all your whole profile there. You have to have a way to know whether or not those things will run, or else you're fuck up with the profile, essentially.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's a lot of context if you move the profile. You have to intuitive, more than just the UPF files.
I don't know.
And if we don't have it currently, it does not mean that I won't do it. Or currently, the biggest use case we saw was migration from Windows 7 to Windows 10. Because then you start out as a green field. The run once key for several policies or for several settings would either have to run again or have to re-evaluate it if it's still relevant in Windows 10. And the application settings, I can see an added value to it, so I might also spend time on it to make sure that those settings are converted. So I already have conversion mechanisms from when a user goes from no UEM to absence. I'd have to see if I'm able to do something with the files REST creates for the user and import it into the profile.
Yeah. So so sorry about it. We don't have it yet, but I don't think it's really a problem because we have several ways, and we did it a lot in the past, importing those things.
Safe got something all the main problems you're going to have.
Yeah.
And that's the big part.
But I've-
Because most times to learn absence, you know, most of the stuff from there, you know it's going to, mostly when you're going to test it. Most of the always test it. I don't test it. But it's this idea you've now got something that's going to take a chunk of time out what you need to do to your migration. You don't have to do it, you just see the the same. It's just a case of how painful you want to do. You do it while alone. So this is a big chunk of it. So you don't have to do an absence inside like you would be coming from the rest. Because absence is a bitch to me. So it's just taking pain away. It's not all concept because you're all different. You store your files that side of the room, you store your files that side of the room. Who knows what the hell is in there? So it's going to be a tailored solution for what you want. Well, press what you've got.
Thank you. So what's next? What can we do? Oh. So we have thought about this. Can we buy it or can you download it? If it was a straightforward product and we could convert it to one to another, you could download it, you could buy it, no worries. But you can't really. So sorry about that. It's really hard. But what we see in the conversion we did earlier, we see that all the conversion we did, it's great and it's good, and you can run it on your Workspace manager. But there is no logic in it. There is no optimized way of logging on, because it's just rambling all the output going through, and then the user is logged on, and you might be having luck that everything is okay. Most of the time we need to do some optimization. The logon trigger is taking too long because there are scripts in it during the conversion, and it's not logic to put it that way. You want to fix it on another trigger, but it was configured in REST on that one. What we also see is every customer is using REST in a different way. So there is not really a standard way of doing things in REST. So it's very hard for us to say yes.
Well, I'm just curious, why not just make it available and ensure if you in your validation step, ensure that all the parameters are correct, and that if it's possible to migrate, if not, then the extra consultancy will be required.
Yeah. Good point. You're way ahead of me.
Okay.
So that's good. Let me get back on that one. So there are fundamental differences between those, and it's not that we don't trust you with this guy, because I think you are very good at the techniques, but it's really, we want to know, if we want to convert, that the customer who is doing the conversion is also happy with the product and is going to use the product, for example. So we really want to do it. If you want to do it, it's not really necessary to hire us guys, but let us know if you want to do a conversion, and we help you out in certain ways. We see what we can do, we look at the configuration, how big it is, and what a company is. We do the conversion for you, you pay a fee for that, and after that we can explain, well, you need to tweak there, and give you the right time. Or we can sort other things out. We have not specifically thought about this really, on how how we do these things. And especially for people outside of the Benelux, we need to figure out how to come in group. But stay in touch with us and we work it out. No worries. Another thing we are working on, it's not, is what about the next steps for this product? Because we are looking about what we see is, and we talk to a lot of people, and they say, well, there are other vendors in the market. For example, WAM or VMware UEM. It's a growing market currently, and why do we need to go to Workspace Manager? IVANTI is really glad we're doing it because it's their product, but yeah, it doesn't have to be necessarily use a Workspace Manager, and because of the instability, it's not because of you, Dennis, but yeah, because of the instability within IVANTI and the competition, what's going on inside. Well, there are a lot of customers thinking about or rethinking about what should we do with this tooling. Maybe it's better to use NetX Logics. Maybe it's good to look at UEM or VMware or WAM. It's good for us. It solves our pain points. So what are your thoughts about it? Or do you want to see other features really in this product? All right. We sort it out ourselves then. All right. If you need anything, please let us know. We are still walking around here. If you want to know anything, technical detail, or you want to know about the conversion, more about the algorithm, Rob?
Oh, yeah, well,
yeah?
I have one question, and I'm pretty sure you can't answer it fully because it's about, my question is, how do you do it? And it's your secret, I know, but just in general, do you export building blocks and talk to the API or
yeah.
You know what?
Well, it's not a big secret really, because it's standard blocks we are using. The rest is completely built on building blocks. Yeah. So it's a huge XML. If you export it in one building block, you get one XML with all the information. Yeah. And we just parse it.
And convert it.
And convert it to the APIs of Absence or UWM and just import it back into the configuration. And that's how we do it. But I don't want to bore you with loads of scripting things going on the background.
I can give you some extra information later on if you want.
I'm very curious.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for your attention and
Well, thank you.
I hope to see you.